All right.
All right.
Welcome to Not Suitable for Adults. This, if you're not familiar with it, is a podcast. Probably not that much. But this one's about kid stuff. We do kids things, but we're grown-ups. The people who host the show are grown-ups.
Yeah, you couldn't tell that we were 3 years old?
We're not 3. And we tell you what we think about the things. Sometimes from a parent's perspective, and sometimes just from a, did we like that movie perspective? Mm-hmm. Or show. Mm-hmm. Or
thing. Breakfast
cereal.
Wow, we have not talked about breakfast cereals.
I have an idea about doing a breakfast cereal, actually.
Well, then you should.
I might do it down the line someday.
Okay.
In the future.
Okie dokie.
I'm Rich.
I'm Natalie.
This is the second week in a row. We have working computers.
We have working computers. One we had to order completely new. One we had to order a completely new hard drive.
Yeah, we literally I don't remember if we talked about this I don't remember if it had happened last week or not, but so we ordered a new computer for me because we'd been having problems.
Yeah.
With my previous computer, which was the podcast computer.
Yeah.
And so we got it in, and literally the day after I got it and had it set up, Natalie's computer, her hard drive just stopped working.
It went away. It decided, I'm going to Houdini away.
And so we took it to get it fixed, and the guy was like, oh yeah, I can totally fix this. And he's like, no, you're going to need a new hard drive. And it's a special hard drive. So we had to order the hard drive, have it installed, have it fixed. Now it works great. And we're back in business and need $1,000. I
mean, we're back in business. What?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just did a joke that's only going to make sense to people who are in my barbershop chorus.
Well, then
it's nothing.
Do any of them listen to this?
Probably not.
Well, then there was no reason for you to talk about.
There's a song called.
Oh, he's going to explain it. Here we go. Everybody get ready.
There's a song called Back in Business.
Uh-huh.
And it's probably from a musical or something, but we do it in our chorus, or we used to. Mm-hmm. We haven't done it in a while. And the first line is, we're back in business and ain't it grand?
And
let the good times roll.
Grand. Got it. Yeah. Here's what I heard. Here's what happened in my brain. Are you ready?
Yeah.
You said we're back in business, and I went, and you went, and ain't it grand? I heard Anita Grand.
I need $1,000.
No, not I need a grand.
Oh, Anita.
Anita.
Like Anita, it's a person.
Like it's a person grand. And I was like, is he trying to make an Ariana Grande
and I just did her name really wrong.
And you just called her Anita Grand. And I went, wait, what? I thought Ariana Grande was something about back in business. And then I was like, that's not what he said. Okay, go ahead. Oh, barbershop.
Okay, well, let's do podcast things.
Okay.
What do you think?
I mean, that's what I'm here for. I don't know about you, but...
Yeah, that's what they're paying us the big bucks for.
Y'all, I think we've made $2 on this podcast?
False.
What?
In the year that we've been making, or a year and a half actually, we've been making a podcast. We've been $40.
I'm making the universal rain.
Yeah, we're making it rain.
Making it rain sign right now with my hands here.
If there was if there was a paper, it would be really impressive if there was a paper denomination for quarters. Then it would be we'd have a big pile.
We'd have a lot of quarters. We've got a lot of quarters.
Oh boy. Okay. I'm going first as usual because Natalie usually does a better job at doing the really well-researched section of the show.
I take time.
But I did take notes this week for my part.
Which is what?
Which is unusual.
Very unusual.
Okay. I watched this week a movie I don't think either of us had seen before, but which is kind of it's in our wheelhouse, but it's not. And I'll talk about why. I watched Disney's Planes.
Is this Pixar? Because Cars was Pixar, right?
Right.
Okay.
Cars is Pixar.
Because I asked you, I said, is it anything like Cars, and you were like, it's
Yeah,
cars,
it's
but
Cars.
planes.
Yeah, so here's the deal. I watch Planes. It's not very good.
Okay.
It's not terrible.
I mean, anybody making a movie about sentient transportation after
Cars. Right.
Disney's Pixar Cars.
Right.
Which, by the way, when you think of Cars, what do you think of?
Owen Wilson?
No, our nephew.
Oh, yeah. Our nephew Nolan loves Cars.
Loves Cars.
He'd probably love Planes.
He'd probably like Planes.
So
hey,
Ben
guys,
and Catherine, if you're listening,
try Planes.
If you need a break from Cars, watch Planes.
Well, it's
also on Disney Plus.
He's also onto Monsters now.
Ooh.
That may come in later.
Here's the deal. This movie exists. It came out in 2013. It stars Dane Cook. Dane Cook.
Really?
The main character in this movie is Dane Cook.
I don't think I realized this. Parents.
Yep.
Suitable for adults.
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
Dane Cook's stand-up comedy is gold.
So, Dane Cook's stand-up comedy is divisive. There are people who really hate him as a comedian and people who really love him. We love him.
We love him. And, take it or leave it. It doesn't matter. This is our podcast so we can say what we want.
Yeah.
We love him. Not suitable
not for
children at all.
Go back to the Vicious Circle tour. It's very funny.
But Dane Cook's stand-up comedy is very good. I never cared for him as an actor.
So this comes from the period of time that Dane Cook was trying to be an actor.
Is this like, what was the Dax Shepard movie where they were like Costco employees?
Yep, Employee of the Month.
Employee of the Month, but it was not Costco. It was like something like Costco or Sam's.
Right. It was a big box store.
Yeah.
Right.
And they were, I mean, he's like funny.
Yeah.
But he's not an actor.
Here's the thing. Okay, there's a lot of stuff about this movie that is just like, let's just get to the nuts and bolts of it, if you will. It is a knockoff of. It's just a knockoff of Cars. This movie?
What I like though is that Disney did it.
Disney did do it.
It's not like Disney Pixar came out with Cars and then like DreamWorks came out with Planes.
It's not like that, but here's the deal. It's a little bit like that.
Oh, but it's the same company.
It is.
I'm just saying it makes me feel better that it is the same company.
But the problem I personally have with it is, and this is one of those things like, and we haven't done one of this like point of view in a while.
Okay.
It doesn't do the things you want a like in the Cars universe movie to do. So at the beginning they go World of Cars. That's the way that they let you know it's connected.
Oh, so they've made that specific that this is the world of Cars, because in Cars we see planes.
Yeah, we see helicopters and planes and
yes.
And so here's the thing. They've expand you could take it this way. You could take it as if in the Cars universe they've expanded to all motor vehicles being sentient beings. Mm-hmm. Here's the problem. These are little things. Let's start with the little stuff. For me, so I'm watching the movie, and I'll tell you about the plot here in a second. It's from 2013, so I'm going to spoil the heck out of this one. But we'll get to this in a sec. I'll get to the story in a second. So, but there's nothing like, you don't see Dinah Co in this movie. Mm-hmm. You don't see even like Rusty's. Yeah. There's a single reference to the original Cars movie in this movie.
What was the reference?
They scare tractors at one point, and they do the cow tipping thing.
The cow tipping thing, okay.
That's the extent of reference to Cars.
I hate that tractors have been dumbed down that much.
I know, because tractors are much more than cows.
Tractors are much more than cows. Tractors get the job done.
I mean, cows get the job done. Don't they? No? Okay.
I don't know what cows you've been seeing, but...
Okay. I mentioned... Okay. I mentioned Dane Cook's in this movie. Let's see. Who's the second most famous person? Actually,
who's the second most famous person besides Dane Cook?
Dane Cook plays Dusty Cropper. No, excuse me, Dusty Crophopper.
I was fixing to say Jessica Simpson, but no, that was
No,
Employee
that
of
was
the
Employee of
Month.
the Month. Dane Cook plays Dusty Crophopper. He's an airplane who is a crop duster.
Okay.
And he dreams of being like an international pan-global rally champion.
Are there a lot of crop duster jokes?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
They say the word crop duster in this movie like 50 times.
But in the way that we would use it.
Oh, like fart jokes?
Yes.
Mostly at the beginning. Yeah, there's a few of those.
Okay, got it.
So Dane Cook is the plane. He lands at this sort of local airstrip where there's like a kind of a crew of like repair trucks and gas trucks that kind of work there. The gas truck, the main, like his best buddy, who's kind of like the stand-in for Mater in this movie, is played by Brad Garrett, who was Robert, the brother on Everybody Loves Raymond.
Ah, yes. Okay.
And there's a forklift named Dottie, who's played by Terry Hatcher.
Okay.
And that's pretty much
okay.
the cast of this movie.
Great.
There's a few other like Cedric the Entertainer is in this one. He's like the elder crop duster who's like, you can't go out in the world and be a racer.
You can't be a real plane.
Yeah. Julia Louis-Dreyfus is in here.
Okay.
As a French Canadian. Well, I'll get to it in a second, but she's like a French Canadian plane in the race that he ends up getting into. Gabriel Iglesias is in here. Okay, a few people make appearances and they're here for a second and they're gone. Val Kilmer is in it technically.
Wow.
Sinbad is in it technically.
So it's a lot of kind of what we would consider as far as like B actors.
Yeah. Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
John Cleese is in here for a second. But this is the weird thing, like the bad guy in the movie who the name of the character is Ripslinger.
Wow. He was born to be a bad person.
Right.
Bad plane.
The guy who plays him is like just he's a voice actor and he's done some voice acting things, but he's not like an actor.
Oh.
So they didn't pull in like big Hollywood muscle to be the bad guy in the movie.
Big Hollywood.
Right.
As in like
you've seen them and you've seen their real face.
Gotcha. So like B actors are, you're in this voiceover movie, but also we've seen your real face.
We know what your face looks like, and that's not the case for the bad guy. Also,
Gotcha.
This is an interesting thing that I just found out when I was like pulling up the Wikipedia page for this movie because I was like, I want to make sure I have the facts ready. The poster for Planes barely has Dane Cook's character on it. It mostly has Ripslinger on it.
The bad guy?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because he's the cooler looking airplane.
Well, show it to
Do you
me.
want to see it?
Yes.
Hang on. Can you see?
Sort of. Hold on.
The green plane? That's Ripslinger.
The green
orange plane
that is a big in the poster is the bad guy.
This orange plane down here, that's Dane Cook. That's Dusty.
You mean the third one down?
No, the third one down is like this weird Mexican luchador airplane.
So okay.
That second one, the orange and white plane, that's Dane
Was
Cook.
that the official poster?
I think so.
Wow.
Okay. Here's the story. So it begins with Dusty Crophopper wants to be
What else was he gonna be in life?
He dreams of being a like plane racing champion. Because who doesn't? But he's a crop duster. But he's a crop duster.
That is not my particular dream, but okay.
He dreams of being more. Here's a few fun facts about Dusty Crophopper. He's afraid of heights.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Yeah, he has sort of a daydream at the beginning where he's like flying alongside some like fighter pilots. And that actually got me at the beginning. I was like, wait a second, he's flying with them. And then I realized like he was in a dream and that it wasn't real.
Can we say why we had to take a quick parenting break real quick?
Our daughter just wanted a couple of little tiny sheets of nori. She just wanted some seaweed.
Cora came in and said, "Can I have seaweed?" So that's what we're dealing with.
That's where we're at now.
Okay, let's continue.
Dusty Crophopper's afraid of heights. He's a crop duster. He says a few times like he's never flown above 1,000 feet. But he wants to be a racer.
Okay, so heights, I suppose, is like a relative term, right? If you're a plane and you're afraid of heights, you're going to be a crop duster. Even though those of us that have stable feet upon the ground were to go up into a crop dusting plane, we would think that's high.
It would feel high. Yeah, like 1,000 feet is not low, but it's low for planes.
For sure. So what I mean is, if you're a plane, to be as close to the ground as possible, you're going to crop dust.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, but his sort of crew, quote unquote, and you can't see my hands, I'm doing quote fingers. His crew's like, you can do it, except for I think Terry Hatcher's character is like, I don't think you can.
Rude.
But literally within the first 10 minutes of the movie, it takes almost no time at all. We're at a race.
Okay.
He's at a qualifying race, and it's
a little bit of whiplash.
Have you ever seen one of those races? These sort of like plane races where they have to fly around a course, and then they have to fly through like certain types of gates, like with their wings level.
No, I have been to plenty of like air shows.
Okay,
so I have seen like plane acrobatics, if that's a term, or even,
but not like an actual race.
No, I have never seen. Do people race planes?
Yeah. So what they do. So this is true. This is real life. So there are plane races.
That seems.
Hang on.
Even more dangerous.
But the thing is, they don't generally send them all out at once. It's like they do laps, and they're doing timed laps.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so this is what he does in this qualifying thing, which doesn't make a lot of sense because what he wants to do is it's a around the world, like marathon, basically. He wants to go around the world in this big rally race. But the way that they're doing qualifying for it is this sort of like, it's almost like the equivalent of like a horse steeplechase. So this is real. So this part is real. There are plane races where they have to fly like a set course, and when they go through certain gates, kind of like when you see skiers go through, you know how they have to go through gates?
Yeah.
It's like that. But like one version of the gate is you have to fly through with your wings flat.
Okay.
And then one version is you have to fly through like on a knife edge, so you have to fly up like on your wings, like sideways.
Okay, how we see every action adventure movie when you have to go through the skinny canyon.
Yeah. Which also happens in this movie.
Sure.
So they do one of these. It doesn't make any sense because that's like, and I actually watched the CinemaSins video for planes also, but that's actually what made me think of it. Is I saw that, and it's like I should watch that, so I went and watched it. I watched the CinemaSins, and if you're not subscribed to CinemaSins, I think last week we talked about the Honest trailers.
How it should have. Oh, Honest trailers.
Yeah. There's three. If you're into movies, there's three things you should watch. There's Honest trailers. There's How It Should Have Ended, and there's CinemaSins.
Which I think you just introduced me to CinemaSins.
Yeah.
I have seen so many Honest trailers and so many How It Should Have Ended. But I don't think I was aware of CinemaSins.
Yeah. So CinemaSins
recently.
is basically like, depending on the movie, it's like between 5 and 15 minutes. And there's longer ones for like the big blockbuster movies of like, here's everything wrong with this movie.
Yeah. And it goes almost scene by scene of the movie. I mean, you're not watching the movie, obviously. It absolutely skips a ton of it. Whoa.
Ooh, we got some thunder.
That was a big thing of thunder.
You might have heard some thunder.
So it condenses it, but you do see the movie. You see so don't watch these things unless you've seen the movie already.
Yeah, they're spoilery for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's also, I haven't talked to you about this because I don't really watch this because it's just not as fun. But there's a sister site for CinemaSins called Cinema Wins, and it's all the best things about the movies.
Okay.
And so, but I usually watch CinemaSins just because it's funny, and the guy who does the voice for it is funny. But I saw that came up. I was like, oh, planes. I should watch that. And so that's what prompted me to do this week. Anyway, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it.
You already have, but
I know.
okay.
We've been talking about a lot of stuff. But so the long and the short of it is, he enters this race. He comes in 6th.
Okay.
But you need to be in the top 5 to qualify for the big race.
Oh my goodness. I hope nothing happens to one of the top 5 to where he gets bumped up to one of the top 5.
Oh no. Well, that's what happened.
Okay, you guys, I have not seen this movie. I need to reiterate, I have not seen this movie. I just know what movies do.
What ends up happening is one of the top ones uses like an illegal fuel.
Sure.
And there's a moment about like whether it's kind of like a legalize it moment in the movie.
Sure. I mean that's kind of appropriate with the time we're in currently. Is a lot of people are qualifying for Olympics right now.
Oh, sure.
And that's
I didn't even think about that.
No, it's 100% very relevant for this time.
Yeah.
A lot of people are qualifying for the Olympics, and some people are being found to have it depends on your point of view, overall broken certain rules.
Well, this is the story of the person who got to be on the team because that person was disqualified. Okay, so, and actually, come to think of it, we barely see those people again. Like the people, the top 5 from this thing. Rip Slinger's there, the bad guy.
What did he qualify as?
He was first. He's the world champion. He's won 1 million times. But they get to this world rally, which is totally different. None of the skills that they showed in the qualifying race have anything to do with flying across oceans.
There is a lot of thunder happening.
There's some serious thunder happening. But they end up flying through this thing. Guess what? It's a pretty big problem that he can't fly higher than 1,000 feet.
You think?
Until like the 4th or 5th leg of the race, there's a bunch of legs of the race. Like he does really bad at the beginning. He keeps coming in last. But on the one of the last few legs of the race, he's like, it turns out it's a really good thing that he flies below 1,000 feet because part of it is flying through a canyon.
Yeah.
And then like part of it is flying through like a certain, like near a city. It's like, oh yeah, these are all things I can do because I'm used to flying low. And so I'm not going to surprise anyone or spoil anything by telling you that he ends up winning.
What?
I would just want to point out a couple of things.
That's so unexpected.
Yeah. Let me cut to the chase. This movie is fine for you to watch. If your kid likes cars, they're going to like planes.
Yeah, so if your kid is obsessed with cars, maybe, and you're ready for a little bit of a change, try out planes. Here's
the thing. I mentioned before that it's not made by Pixar, but it's also not made by Disney Animation. It's made by Disney Toons. And Disney Toons is the studio that brings you such things as those Tinkerbell movies.
Weird.
Yeah, it's like their third string animation studio.
Honestly, I had no idea until this second that Disney Toons
me
really
neither.
Existed.
So Disney Toons is their C-level animation studio, and it shows. It doesn't look as good as Pixar. Mm-hmm. Also, you don't get any nods other than that. Like some of the vehicles look like vehicles from Cars. You don't get anything from Cars. So there's no connective tissue other than the way it looks. So there's that. And then, there's also like just some weird, crude humor in this movie that is explicitly for adults. And by that, I mean, there's moments, there's 2 female characters There's 2 female characters in this movie. 3, excuse me. Go ahead.
Sorry for the... No, I was just saying sorry for the interference. I grabbed my phone to check the weather because it sounded loud.
There's 3 female characters in this movie. There's the Terry Hatcher character I mentioned before. Right. She's a forklift. I know. There is the Julia Louis-Dreyfus character, who is she's the love interest for this other like playing character who's from Mexico.
Okay.
Who's like a luchador. And that's like a weird thing, but like they end up getting together because he's really he keeps like kind of, he's very into this, like character's really into the Julia Louis-Dreyfus character, and she's like, no, I don't like you, I do not like you, no, I do not like you, and then by the end they're in love.
Well, that's what happens.
Yeah.
Us women were fickle people.
Okay.
And no, it drives me nuts. It drives me nuts when a movie is showing a woman going like, ugh. Yeah. Like, I don't get you. I'm not interested in you. And suddenly they're like, I love you. Like, it bugs me because
understandable.
That's not how people are.
And then when they get to the big international race, there's a plane from India who's played by, her name's Ishani, and she's played by Priyanka Chopra.
Yes.
And she has like a moment where she like kind of turns on Dusty, but then she ends up helping him at the end. Why
didn't you mention Priyanka Chopra? Sorry, I can't say her name correctly. In the original list of celebrities.
I didn't mean to not. I think it was probably because I knew I was going to talk about this section.
Gotcha.
I didn't mean to leave her out.
I just was wondering if you knew who she was.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. She plays almost the love interest of Dusty, not quite, almost kind of. But here's the thing. This is the thing that I wanted to mention is there's a moment when he meets her. She says, "Oh, hello. It's nice to meet you," and like rolls away, and he looks after her and he goes, "Whoa, look at that propeller."
Ew.
And she's got a propeller on the backside.
Ew.
And that's like a running thing. They come back to that 2 or 3 times in the movie where he's like, that properler.
Gross.
And he's just looking at her butt.
Gross.
I don't like it. I didn't like it. I was watching it and I didn't like it. And actually in the cinema sense, I'm going to say a cuss word.
Uh-oh.
No. It's not going to be, we're not turning into an explicit show. I'm going to be quoting something.
Okay.
And so I'm going to say a cuss word as part of that. So if you're listening with children present, just be prepared.
Okay.
Pause it. Listen to it in a second. We're not turning into a blue show. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to say the thing. I was watching the CinemaSins and I had already noted this. I was like, man, they come back to this butt thing a few times.
Right.
And I was watching the CinemaSins for it afterwards. And the guy who does it is like, man, this movie is all about the ass.
Yeah. That's super annoying.
It's really annoying. Only this one female plane has her propeller on the back side, and they keep making a big deal about it.
So far, a lot of my feminism is really, like, hating this movie.
I know. This movie is, like, it's fine, and your kid doesn't care about that, so they're not going to catch it.
Sure.
But also, like, I don't get it. I don't understand why that was a funny thing.
It's supposed to be... I'm doing quote hands, everybody. Adult humor.
Yeah, this isn't there for the grown-ups.
But the thing is that not all adults think that's funny. It is lightning and thundering a lot.
Yeah, maybe we should close that door. That's bringing in some of the thunder sounds. That is planes. I'm not going to go into the whole thing because you don't need it.
I don't need this movie. I'm against it. I've canceled it already.
You're gonna notice the like not as goodness of this movie. There are even things like I'm still spending time on it. There are moments where they do like wipes. You know how when you're watching a kids movie and they do like a wipe on the screen between scenes? Yeah. And it'll be like a character walking by in the
Sure, yeah.
But it's not natural. It's just like, here's a car because this is a car show. And it's just like, and a car goes by and that's the wipe to take you between scenes. That happens a lot in this movie.
So basically you're saying, if your kid likes cars and you need a break,
if you've watched all the Cars a million times, this could give you a break.
But if you like cars,
You're
don't
probably-
watch planes.
If you like cars, you're not going to like this movie.
Yeah.
But
Unless you're a 2-year-old.
unless you're a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
Unless you're a kid who the movie's for.
Yeah.
And they put all this stuff in there for the grown-ups, but I just don't think... I think it was a little tone deaf. I think they didn't quite do it very well. So it's not great. It's not bad. It's right in the middle. Mm-hmm. It's on Disney Plus if you want to watch it.
Great.
Let's pull over in Promoville.
I mean, it's starting to storm. We should pull over
yeah, it's
under
raining.
an underpass in case a tornado
I'm
comes.
having some problems with my windshield wipers, and I need to pull over in Promoville. And we're back.
I didn't realize when we began this episode that it was going to be kind of a Nolan-heavy episode.
Yeah, we're kind of doing a lot about our
nephew.
Stuff targeted at our nephew.
Yeah, we did not mean to do that. I mean, like we said, Nolan is super into cars. He will sit still for cars, and a 2-year-old boy doesn't really sit still much.
Nope.
And lately he's also getting into what he calls monsters, which is what I'm actually talking about today. I'm talking about one of my favorites of the Disney franchise, Pixar franchise, which is Monsters Inc. Yes. So interesting that we both were on a Nolan Pixar wavelength happening, even though yours wasn't technically that. So I'm going to talk about Monsters Inc. Monsters Inc. is a 2001 American computer animated comedy film produced by Pixar and distributed by Disney. So, as we all know, when it comes to Disney Pixar films, a lot of the times we get some Pete Docter stuff.
Sure. Especially early.
Yeah.
A lot of early Pixar, but I'm not saying like across the...
Right. Actually, he came in... So, Monsters, Inc. is one of the first after, like, the Toy Stories and stuff. Mm-hmm. And Pete Docter wasn't necessarily involved so much with the Toy Story stuff. But he started getting more involved when it came after the Toy Story stuff. And that includes Monsters, Inc.
Yeah. So...
he began developing this film in 1996. So 96 to 2001. That's a 5-year project.
Yep.
And when I say he wasn't, because I'm fixing to read this quote and it may sound like I'm being redundant. When I say he wasn't as involved with Toy Story, that's not what I mean. He directed, I believe, Monsters, Inc. Shoot, now I'm going to feel bad if that's wrong. He did not direct Toy Story. But he was on the production team with Toy Story. So, he says, quote, "When we were making Toy Story, everybody came up to me and said, 'Hey, I totally believe that my toys came to life when I left the room.'" So, how many of us that have seen Toy Story ever think like, when we left the room, our toys came to life? I mean, that happens. I'm still in his quote, starting right now. So when Disney asked us to do some more films, I wanted to tap into a childlike notion that was similar to that. I knew monsters were coming out of my closet when I was a kid. So I said, hey, let's do a film about monsters. So what I love about Pete Docter and a lot of his production team is that they really do tap into these very, very basic childhood thoughts, fears, loves, joys. They tap into these what children think about, and I love that. Go ahead.
Just a quick thing. I just did some quick Googling about Pete Docter and early Pixar. Mm-hmm. Pete Docter did not direct Toy Story 1.
Right, yes.
But he was on the story team.
Yes.
So he helped develop Toy Story.
Yes.
And then he directed Monsters, Inc.
Yes.
And also, I don't know if you're going to talk about this or not, but Randy Newman also did the music. Did you know Randy Newman did...
Can
Go
I
ahead.
continue, please?
Because that's
my
amazing.
next sentence
Okay.
literally was going to be Randy Newman, who composed the music for Pixar's 3 prior films,
Yeah.
returned to compose for this movie.
I just think that's incredible that they were
I can't believe you stole that from under me.
I just didn't know. I didn't.
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
No, it's
I didn't
fine.
mean to
It's
steal
fine.
it.
It's fine.
It's just
It's
that
fine.
I didn't realize that Randy Newman was like the John Williams of Pixar.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So it generated over $577 million worldwide and became the 3rd highest grossing film of 2001. Wow, 2001.
I know.
Think of 2001.
Yeah.
That year sucked.
I also want to say, yeah, for sure. I also want to just point out that like 570. I'm looking at Wikipedia numbers. 577.4 million is what it said it generated the box office. That's more than some Marvel movies.
I mean,
That's some
yeah.
big money.
Well, if you're thinking about it, so like Pixar became Pixar when they started doing these things.
Yeah.
Because Pixar at first was Toy Story.
Yeah. And Bug's Life.
Right. But
Yeah.
what I mean is like there was a very limited amount of things that Pixar was doing, even though the things they were doing were very good.
Yeah.
So when Pixar suddenly comes out with something that's completely different
Yeah.
for them at the time.
Yeah. It was like it was a new project.
Yes.
It was unknown.
Absolutely. Monsters, Inc. won the Academy Award for Best Original Song, If I Didn't Have You.
Mm-hmm.
And it was nominated for the first Best Animated Feature, but it lost to Shrek.
Freaking Shrek.
Shrek was not near as good as Monsters, Inc., but that is my truth. And it was also nominated for Best Original Score and Best Sound Editing. So Pete Docter's original idea actually was a 30-year-old man who dealt with monsters that he drew in a book as a child and came back to bother him as an adult.
Oh.
So it seems like super dark.
Yeah.
That seems really dark.
Well, it's Pixar.
And then each monster represented a fear he had.
Okay.
And conquering those fears caused the monsters to disappear.
Oh.
I see this being a theme for a film that would be good.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like it's one of those. Maybe it's a now Pixar film.
Maybe it's a spinoff of like Inside Out.
But what I mean is like Pixar at that time was very different than Pixar at this time.
Yeah, for sure.
Pixar in 2001 was a lot more lighthearted than Pixar in 2021.
Yeah.
20 years ago. I'm just going to let you sit in your existential crisis. So can I tell you what the original Monsters, Inc. was going to be about?
What was it?
Between 1996 and 2000, the lead monster and child went through radical changes as the story evolved. As the story continued to develop, the child varied in age and gender. Ultimately, they decided that a little girl would be the best counterpart to the big, furry, 8-foot tall monster. Because basically when you're thinking of opposites, that's kind of what you come up with. After the little girl was settled upon, the character continued to undergo changes. At one point being from Ireland, at one point being African American. And originally, the character of the little girl, whose original name was Mary, was a fearless 7-year-old who has been toughened by years of teasing and pranks from 4 older brothers.
Oh. That's a very different movie.
Yes. Also, in contrast, Johnson, who is the original Sully, Johnson is nervous about the possibility of losing his job after the boss at Monsters, Inc. announced a downsizing. He feels envious because a scarer, Ned, who has actually become Randall, Ned is the company's top performer.
Oh.
So originally, the character that became Randall was the company's top performer,
so they
and
end up
not Sully.
They end up kind of swapping their roles.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And making Randall the skis.
Right. Through various drafts, Johnson, who became Sully, his occupation went back and forth from being a scarer to working in other areas of the company like a janitor, until its final incarceration as being the best.
Incarnation. Incarnation.
Yes, absolutely.
Incarceration is when someone goes
I
to
know
jail.
what incarceration means.
Okay.
We just watched Series of Unfortunate Events again, and they say incarceration here means, and the children go, we know what incarceration means. I know what incarceration means. I said the wrong word. Incarnation.
Yep.
As the best scare in Monsters, Inc. So it kind of took a lot of different turns trying to decide who was going to be the big scarer, who was going to be the scarer, and who was going to be the wanting to be a scarer kind of person. Through the development, Pixar worried about main characters whose main goal was to scare children.
Sure.
I mean, because, Pixar.
Yeah. They weren't in the scaring children business yet back then.
Yeah. And Doctor also said that while they were trying to solve that problem, his team was bending over backwards trying to create a story that still had monsters. Mm-hmm. Because what are monsters for?
Right.
Scaring kids.
Children.
A key moment came when the team decided, and this is again a Pete Docter quote. Okay, he's the best scarer there. He's the star quarterback. Design after design, we really didn't know what he was about. Disney noted to Pixar early on that they did not want the character to look like a guy in a suit. So their main concern is, okay, he's the best scarer. We don't want kids to be scared. Also, we don't want kids to think that it's a person dressed up in a Halloween costume. Actually, Johnson, again, quote, Johnson, who became Sully, was planned to have tentacles for feet.
Okay.
But this caused problems in animation.
Sure. As it always does.
Right. And they also thought that the children would be distracted by his tentacles. Mm-hmm. Mary's age also differed. I'm not saying that Boo's name is Mary. I'm saying Boo originally called her Mary.
Right.
Yes. Mary's age also differed from draft to draft until they settled on the age of 3. Mm-hmm. And
Boo's 3?
Boo is 3.
I feel like Boo is younger than 3.
They say Boo is 3.
Go on.
And then Pete Docter actually said, we found that the younger she was, the more dependent she was on Sully. Okay. So they wanted her to be young, but also emotive. And also communicative.
Old enough to be a character and old enough to be independent enough, but also young enough to be dependent on Sully.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so eventually Johnson was renamed Sullivan. Sullivan also was supposed to have glasses, but they also rejected that because they didn't really want to animate that, I think.
Yeah.
Also, Pete Docter named the character Mike Wazowski after the father of Pete Docter's friend, Frank Oz.
Oh, wow.
Pete Docter and Frank Oz were friends, and he named Mike Wazowski after Frank Oz's father.
Mike Oz,
I guess. Originally, also, Mike had no arms, and it was just his legs. And again, due to technical difficulties, it was just easier to animate him some arms. Also, Bill Murray was considered for the role of Sully.
Sure.
Which I feel like Bill Murray should always be considered for some sort of role.
Can you imagine Bill Murray and also Billy Crystal in the same movie together? Man.
Apparently, he screen tested for the role, and he was interested, but when Pete Docter was unable to contact him, Pete Docter was trying to contact him, and then he just took it as a no when he couldn't get in contact with him.
Oh, Bill. Oh, Bill Murray.
So it went to John Goodman, which I believe was the better choice.
John Goodman's amazing.
If you're going to do a big scary monster, I'm not scared of Bill Murray. I'm scared of John Newman.
John Newman. I'm not scared of Randy Newman.
I'm scared of John Goodman, is what I mean, as far as voices are concerned.
I would like to see
the screen test.
The screen test of Bill Murray doing Sully.
I don't think Sully is scary as Bill Murray, though.
I would like to see it.
Yeah.
Go on.
Also, I just wanted to quickly say that they had to go through so many animation tests for Sully's fur.
Yeah.
It was a huge, huge development in animation in 2001 when they had Sully's fur blow with the breeze or move the way it moved. It was a huge, just kind of technological revelation.
I think that's
to animate that way.
I think that's been Pixar's thing since it began. Like,
absolutely.
It's like, how can we make particle effects the most amazing they've ever been in every movie we do?
They did so many tests to where his fur would get caught on the other objects on the screen, or his fur would go through the objects on the screen. They had to find new ways of animation to get his fur to move the way it did.
That's just what makes Pixar's, like, set aside the stories and the movies themselves, but, like, just focus on the visuals. I mean, we've talked about this a million times, but, like, every Pixar movie that comes out, we're like, and by the way, just pause and look at the water.
Right? Exactly.
Just go look at the water in Luca. Like, set aside everything else in Luca and look at the water. It's freaking amazing.
Yes.
Like...
Absolutely. It boggles my mind. It ranked number 1 at the box office on its opening weekend. It grossed $62 million in North America just on its opening, and it made almost $290 million in North America. As far as like gross. Gross. Just a couple of very quick things. Some controversy, which, you know, I love.
Of course.
There was a children's songwriter named Lori Madrid, who lives in Wyoming, that stated that the company had stolen her ideas for her 1997 poem called There's a Boy in My Closet, which sounds terrifying.
Scary.
She said she mailed her poem to 6 publishers in 1999, specifically Chronicle Books, and then she ended up turning into a local stage musical in her part of Wyoming. After seeing the trailer for Monsters, Inc., she said that Chronicle Books had passed her work onto Pixar and that the film was based on her work. In 2001, she filed the suit against Chronicle Books, against Pixar, against Disney in federal court, and her lawyer asked the court to issue a preliminary injunction that would forbid Pixar and Disney from releasing the film when the suit was pending, and guess what? They did it. Like, obviously, it didn't pan out for her.
Did they settle or anything?
The judge refused the injunction.
Oh, no. That means she didn't get money for that.
She got zip. It was the day before the film's release.
So here's a question. Okay, here's the thing.
Okay.
Let's talk. Okay, no, you go ahead.
No, okay, so I'm thinking, judge is going, Disney Pixar is releasing a film tomorrow. This woman's lawyer says she doesn't want it to happen. Guess what? I'm gonna let it happen because it's coming on 5,800 screens in 3,200 theaters across the country.
Yeah.
No, thank you. I don't have time for this.
Well, so here's the thing. And this is back to... We did it last week. We're doing it this week. Let's talk about art.
Right. Other people can have the same idea you have.
And well, here's the thing. There's two things. Like, if Pete Docter like was looking at a bunch of mail
a poem from
and
a
looked at her
woman
poem
in
and was like, this reminds me of thoughts I had as a child when I thought that there were monsters in my closet. Like, it's not unreasonable to say
Yeah.
that you owe her a credit of some kind.
Maybe.
But also, to your point, and I 100% agree, you didn't invent the feeling that there's someone in your closet.
No, absolutely not. That was something I felt as a child.
I never read your poem.
And
lady.
you never read my poem. What if I written a poem?
I have books of poetry that you've never read, Pete Doctor.
Oh, I thought you were talking to me. I was like, no, you don't. And then in 2002, the judge ultimately ruled that the film had nothing in common with the poem.
Yeah, there's closet doors is what it has in common. Like, yeah.
Last thing, in 2002, a man named Stanley Mouse,
Both are good names.
A name named Stanley Mouse filed a lawsuit, which he said that the characters of Mike and Sully were based on drawings he had made called Excuse My Dust, a film which he had tried to sell to Hollywood in 1998. That lawsuit stated that the story artist from Pixar visited Mouse in 2000 and discussed his works with him.
Now that's different if that happened.
If it happened. A Disney spokeswoman responded saying that the characters were, quote, developed independently by Pixar and Walt Disney Pictures creative teams and do not infringe on anyone's copyrights. The case was ultimately settled under undisclosed terms.
Yeah.
Now, if Pixar comes to your door, also, what happens when Pixar comes to your door? That's what I'd like to know. Knock, knock, knock. Hi, I'm Karen from Pixar. What?
And then you die. You just died just then.
Also, Karen? Really?
Hi, I'm Karen Pixar.
Anyway, so he claimed that they came to him and talked to him about his drawings and his film that he had submitted. And
then passed and stole his art.
But that's, it's whatever justice is in this world, whatever.
That's tough because that kind of thing happens in Hollywood where like you pitch an idea and I've seen this happen like, I've seen a couple of things. I can't remember who it is. Someone like some actor or like or comedian or someone that I know about. I just happened to see on TikTok and they were talking about like, I need to get the word out. I pitched an idea to this film studio and they passed. And then 3 years later, my story is in movie form under a different name.
I mean,
like that kind of thing happens.
Absolutely no doubt that happens.
Yeah.
I would only hope that somebody that has an actual idea has it in some sort of writing. Like, yeah. I don't know what that entails at all. At all.
Well, and also, like, if you're going to claim ownership of something, like going back to the First Lady, and I feel really bad. Like,
yeah.
Because that feeling, that has to be a terrible feeling, like believing that you, whether it's true or not, believing that something,
I had this idea.
An idea you had was stolen, and here they've made millions and billions off of it, and,
right?
And you have
nothing
no
to do
connection
with
to it, and you feel like you're connected to it. But like the idea that you could invent the idea that something scary is in your closet,
right?
Like, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, lady. Like, maybe your poem is probably great.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. It's just not their movie about colorful monsters coming out.
It was way before 1990, whatever it said, that I was scared of something in my closet.
Right.
I mean, it just happens. That's what kids are.
That is what kids are. They're scary things in your closet.
Yep. Absolutely.
Oh, man. It
got really stormy.
Yeah, we've had, I don't know. If you
Y'all
can
don't
hear
care.
It. You probably don't care, and you may not have even been able to hear it.
You probably don't hear it.
But
it's pretty noisy out there.
There's been some serious rain, and all through this episode of Not Suitable for Adults. We thank you for spending your time with us. If you haven't before, or even if you have, head over to somewhere and review us. You can do that on iTunes. You can do it through a lot of different podcatching applications. But if you're not sure if your application does it, head over to podchaser.com. Search for Not Suitable for Adults, and we're on there. And you can leave us a review. We love, the more stars, the better. There's 5 that are possible, and 5 would be great. You can also leave a review with words about your feelings about us. And
review with words.
And while you're there, click on merch.
Yeah.
And buy one of our t-shirts or one of our stickers, because those are over there too. We have a Promoville shirt. And
I don't think a lot of people know that we have actual t-shirts, because I was wearing one the other day and my mom went, "What is that?"
What is
and I was
Promoville?
like, "It's Promoville. It's our podcast." And she was like, "I want one."
We have a Promoville t-shirt that's like a "Welcome to Promoville" shirt. We also just have one that has our logo on it. You can buy one of those there, or a sticker, and slap that on your laptop or your car, wherever you want to do it. That's at podchaser.com. Our merch is linked through TeePublic. So if you just want to go straight there, teepublic.com. We thank Shad Warrell for creating our fantastic music that we use for our intro and outro. You can find his work at soundcloud.com/Shad-Warrell. All right. Well, as always, this is it's a point in the year when kids are getting ready to go back to school.
Oh my goodness, you guys. We have one kid.
We have just the one.
She's going to kindergarten in about 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, less than a month.
And I don't think we know.
We don't realize how unready for it we are.
We don't know. I'm ready as far as getting a break.
Yeah, but we've never had her spend most of the day not here.
Absolutely. I mean, she's not done preschool. Only very few times has she done any sort of preschool.
And you were her teacher.
And I worked there.
Right, yeah.
So anyway, if you guys have good tips and tricks for new kindergarten parents, please send them our way.
Yeah. But yeah, it's the time of the year when we're about a month. Especially if you're below the Mason-Dixon line. Down here, we go back to school around August. Up north and sometimes west, sometimes they don't go till September. But we're in that period of the year. We're in the last month or two of kids hanging out at home and kind of having the run of the house. Just don't forget that you are, in fact, still the boss.
So you weirded me out with the fact thing.
Think about this fact.
Okay.
You're the boss.
So watch whatever you want. Say it didn't come out at first because you added extra words.
All right, well, bye.
Bye.